Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar was indicted over the weekend for allegedly taking nearly $600,000 in bribes and laundering funds. But the story does not start there. The Prospect's David Dayen pointed out on X, quote, "The Pelosi, Hoyer, Clyburn, Dem leadership worked tirelessly to drag Henry Cuellar back to Congress in 2022, only for him to be indicted over $600,000 in bribes, an investigation known at the time, threatening control of his seat and the House. Good job." 2 years ago, when Cuellar faced a primary challenge from progressive Jessica Cisneros, Democratic leadership picked Cuellar. This despite Cuellar being the only anti-abortion Democrat in Congress, and this happening right after the Dobbs decision was decided. They figured he was less risky than a progressive in South Texas, even though just a few months before the 2022 primary, the FBI raided Cuellar's house as part of a corruption investigation over ties to Azerbaijan. Cuellar insisted he was innocent, and the House, including Nancy Pelosi, rallied around him.
But the DOJ have now indicted him and his wife on 14 counts for allegedly taking bribes from Azerbaijan oil and gas company in exchange for using his office to influence U.S. foreign policy. The Texas lawmaker continues to maintain his innocence and said he will run for re-election in November. Congressional Republicans called on Cuellar to resign, writing in a statement, "Henry Cuellar does not put Texas first. He puts himself first. If his colleagues truly believe in putting people over politics, they will call on him to resign. If not, they're hypocrites whose statements about public service aren't worth the paper they're printed on." That is according to an NRCC spokesperson. But Donald Trump, does not agree with others in his party and had this to say about Cuellar on Truth Social. Listen to this. "Biden just indicted Henry Cuellar because the respected Democrat congressman wouldn't play Crooked Joe's open borders game. He was for border control, so they said, let's use the FBI and DOJ to take him out. This is the way they operate. They're a bunch of DC thugs, and at some point, they will be paying a very big price for what they have done to our country. Crooked Joe Biden is a threat to democracy." And then also former Republican Representative George Santos weighing in. Santos, who was expelled from the House for being accused of fraud, wrote on X, "Hey, Richie Torres," referring to Representative Richie Torres, a Democrat, "are you going to draft an expulsion resolution for Henry Cuellar, or is this just for Republicans who flip seats? Inquiring minds want to know."
All right. So first of all, you got to give it to, the people who are criticizing Santos and others who are criticizing Democrats here, because the hypocrisy is out of control. Yes. Not only do you have the Santos example, but you have the whole of the Democratic Party basically trying to push back against the idea that Hunter Biden was involved in a pay-for-play scheme. At the same time, you're saying Donald Trump was involved with trying to suppress the Stormy Daniels story. They're trying to say that the Donald Trump and the MAGA are the corrupt ones. They're the ones that are being paid by Putin. All of these kinds of things. When they're not only having this happen in their backyard, they knew this was under investigation and still pushed Cuellar over Jessica Cisneros. Remember, leftists will remember this. Jessica Cisneros, a leftist out of nowhere, just without all the institutional support, that someone like Henry Cuellar had, got within a few hundred votes of him in the 2022 Democratic primary runoff. It was so close. And part of the issue that was really front of mind at the time was Dobbs. The Dobbs decision had been leaked. We knew that abortion was going to be front of mind. And Cuellar is literally the last remaining elected anti-choice Democrat. And Nancy Pelosi, had been spending the whole summer, doing all this chest thumping about how important abortion rights were and how horrible Republicans were, went out of her way to come down, advocate for, caucus for Henry Cuellar in that moment, and to bring the whole might of the Democratic Party establishment, including Steny Hoyer and Jim Clyburn, down to support Cuellar with her. This is on her entirely 100%, and people should continue to turn the screw until it won't twist anymore.
Yes, and this is not coming out of left field. There was already reporting.
Right.
There was already knowledge. There was already action being taken by law enforcement. This was known. This isn't we're blindsided. This guy's corrupt. Who could have figured that? It was known, and they made this conscious choice anyway. And so now they have to lay in the bed they've made, especially given the stance they took with respect to Santos. I think it's pretty
100%.
Totally justified for him to be calling this out. The weird one here being Trump, who wants to make it into an immigration issue and a weaponized DOJ issue. Look, I think most Americans of all political stripes don't want their members of Congress putting Azerbaijan policy first. I mean, I'm sure they're lovely people there, and I don't wish any ill to them,
policy.
but MAGA is Make America Great Again, not Azerbaijan Great Again, and this is fairly amusing.
Well, it's also worth noting, given how much scrutiny the influence of the Israel lobby has, that AIPAC was a big backer of Cuellar. And Jessica Cisneros' longtime advocacy for the rights and interests of the Palestinian people are part of what made her a target, like many people on the left. So this is a pretty key example of how Democrats repeatedly undermine their own interests and do more to imperil democracy and open the gates to the threat of Trump and all the things that they use to fearmonger people to the polls. It's their own behavior frequently that makes them vulnerable to MAGA attacks or Republican success, or however you want to frame it. And they will turn around and say, well, we can't have someone like Jessica Cisneros because, you know, she's going to be vulnerable for Democrats in Texas. She's too crazy. She's too lefty. Yeah. Well, have you ever considered that maybe the policies that she stands for as a working class candidate resonated with people, and that's why she came so close in this district? And then having a flagrantly corrupt politician who is an establishment politician through and through, who clearly is now being pursued for taking money from Azerbaijan, but also has taken money from AIPAC hand over fist, makes him untrusted in the district and at least as vulnerable as someone like Jessica Cisneros, who also just happens to be on the right side of issues when it comes to just what the Democratic Party's platform is, unlike Henry Cuellar.
Yeah. My neighbor, Henry Cuellar. I know where he lives because remember he got carjacked while he was in his car in the area of D.C. that I live in. It was like a block from me. Maybe I don't know if there was something nefarious going in there. Maybe it was money changing hands. I'm just speculating. You know, a vigilante citizen, maybe trying to make an arrest of a congressperson for corruption and for putting foreign interests first.
Look, I'm sure
Who knows?
It was a very nice car. It better be, given if you're out here stealing almost $750,000 or doing bribes for $750,000.
I wonder if he got the famous advice in the first episode or the second episode of Arrested Development, where the father is in jail and he leans in to Michael and says they can't charge a husband and wife for the same crime. Michael says, I don't think that's true. And he says, I have the worst effing attorneys.
All right, we'll continue to follow this one, but that does it for us today.
That does it for us today on Rising. We will be back tomorrow.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. For those of you who like to listen while you're on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Take care.